Household staples like eggs, milk, bread, corn, beef, butter are rising in price and becoming surprisingly expensive. Food prices used to rise by only 1 to 2% a year. Now they are soaring by 13% a year. Going to the supermarket is no longer a daily routine. It's like a small shock every time you look at the price tag. Everyone feels the price shock, and the big question is, why are common goods so expensive? When you stand in the grocery store, staring at a carton of eggs that cost more than they did last week, last month, and last year, and the same thing is happening with milk, bread, beef, butter, pretty much everything. The question comes suddenly, almost annoyingly: why are food prices so high? On the surface, the story everyone repeats sounds reasonable. COVID happened, war happened, global supply chains are broken. Yes, it's all part of the explanation. They clogged shipping lanes, shut down factories, sent energy prices soaring, and left the world scrambling to find essential ingredients. I've heard those excuses hundreds of times, and for a long time, I accepted them as fact. But the deeper I looked at the numbers, the more I saw something was wrong. Because while people are struggling with ever increasing bills, behind the doors of food corporations, a completely different story is unfolding. Record profits, record CEO salaries, record dividends. And that's where the strange part of the puzzle comes in. If things are really expensive because the world is seriously troubled, then why are the companies that sell us food making more money than ever? How can profit margins soar during a time when consumers are at their most desperate? That question opens up a huge gap of curiosity, and it makes me, like so many others, start to doubt. We're told that inflation is the culprit, that supply chains are the culprit, that droughts, hurricanes, wars are unavoidable objective factors. But deep down, there was a growing frustration. Prices only went up, never down. People were angry and, to be honest, I was too. Not just because food was more expensive, but because there was a sense that something was being hidden. And when you looked at the data, it became incredibly clear food companies were raising prices much faster than they actually cost. Many companies openly admitted this in shareholder meetings. Consumers, already tired and financially stressed, had no choice. Especially families who already spent a large portion of their income on food, they were hit the hardest. Some economists call this phenomenon greedflation, when corporations take advantage of a crisis to raise prices far beyond what is necessary, knowing that people will blame the state of the world rather than the way the companies are operating. And let's be honest, it sounds pretty reasonable. A world in turmoil becomes the perfect backdrop. Costs rise slightly, prices jump. Costs fall, prices stay the same, as if nothing had happened. And that's why the biggest question is no longer, how much are food prices going up? But, is food getting more expensive because the world is really in crisis? Or because the system is being deliberately exploited? When we zoom out and look at the long history of food, about 8,000 years ago, humans first learned how to grow more food than they needed. And that simple breakthrough, surplus, changed everything. Surplus created trade. Trade created roads, markets, empires, wars, and even the earliest laws. Salt, wheat, spices, grains, these weren't just ingredients. They were power. Entire civilizations rose and fell based on their ability to control food routes. And in ancient times, food wasn't cheap at all. In England, people spent nearly 75% of their income just to eat. In France, around 70% of a family's income went into something as basic as bread. For most of human history, food was a survival luxury essential, but painfully expensive. Then everything changed around the 1900s. Industrial machines, global shipping, refrigeration, containers, and standardized logistics transformed the world. Suddenly, food traveled further, lasted longer, and cost less. The percentage of income spent on food dropped dramatically. For the first time in history, food felt abundant. Food felt stable. Food felt like something that would be cheap forever. To understand why our food prices are exploding, we have to look beyond the grocery store shelf and trace the true journey of the food we eat. A single tomato, egg, or piece of meat doesn't just appear magically in your kitchen. It travels through from the farm to cold storage, to processing factories, to containers and trucks, to border checkpoints, to massive distribution warehouses, to your local supermarket, to and finally onto your plate. This chain is global, complex, and incredibly fragile. If any link breaks, even for a short time, the cost increases, and that cost always lands on us, the final consumer. Over the last few years, this chain has been hit repeatedly. COVID-19 shut down factories, created a shortage of truck drivers, and jammed ports with shipping container shortages. Droughts, storms, and unexpected frosts destroyed crops and forced farmers to slaughter livestock early. Energy prices surged, making every step of the food system, from refrigeration to trucking, more expensive. The Russia and Ukraine war disrupted global supplies of wheat, corn, fertilizer, and cooking oil. Many countries even imposed export bans, like Indonesia's palm oil ban, pushing global prices even higher. Every shock, big or small, rippled through the entire system, inflating the final price we pay. But here's the twist: supply chain shocks are not the full story. The egg price crisis is a perfect example. The official narrative was simple. Bird flu wiped out millions of hens, so eggs became scarce and prices had to rise. But the data tells a very different story. National egg production barely dipped, it didn't collapse. Meanwhile, the largest egg producer in the country reported record profits, record dividends, and soaring stock prices. That means prices didn't just increase to cover higher costs, they increased far beyond costs. The bird flu crisis became a convenient cover for raising prices and boosting profits. Many of our food markets are dominated by a handful of corporations. 4 companies control 85% of the beef market. A small group of firms dominate turkey, pasta, canned tuna, even seed genetics, and 4 retail chains alone account for nearly 70% of all grocery sales. When only a few players control the market, they no longer compete to lower prices, they quietly move together to raise them. A crisis becomes the perfect excuse to do what they already wanted to do: charge more. This isn't just inflation, it's greedflation, a system where real shocks open the door and corporate power pushes prices far beyond necessity. Today's global food system is one of the most complex machines humanity has ever built, and it quietly keeps billions of people alive every single day. Thanks to this system, Mexican tomatoes, South American avocados, Australian beef, and Asian rice all show up at the exact same time in supermarkets across the US, Europe. Food moves across oceans, continents, and time zones with a level of coordination that's almost invisible to us. But food isn't just another commodity on a shelf. It is the foundation of modern life. Without it, nothing else works. Food is what allows workers to show up for their jobs. Food is what allows children to go to school. Food is what keeps factories running, families stable, and entire economies functioning. When the food system shakes, everything else shakes with it. When we look at the numbers, we see. In the United States, corporate profit margins have reached their highest levels since the 1950s. That means, while ordinary families are struggling to pay for groceries, many of the companies selling those groceries are making more money than at any point in modern history. And they're not hiding it. During earnings calls, multiple CEOs and CFOs openly admit that they have raised prices far beyond what their rising costs require. One major chocolate company's CFO even stated that their combination of pricing and productivity improvements has not only covered all cost increases, it has actually expanded their profit margin. In other words, the crisis became an opportunity. The same thing is happening with soft drink and snack giants. They call their steady price hikes pricing actions, a polite corporate phrase that really means we're testing how much consumers can handle before they stop buying. And that's the real point. It's not just higher costs pushing prices up. It's not just inflation. It's market power companies with enormous control over the food system, combined with corporate greed that pushes prices even higher. When the biggest players raise prices, the entire market follows, and consumers have no choice but to pay. When food prices rise, the people who feel it first and feel it the hardest are not the CEOs, not the corporations, and certainly not the shareholders. It's ordinary families, it's workers, it's the people who spend a large portion of their income simply keeping food on the table. For poor and middle-class households, Even a small price increase hits like a shockwave. These families already spend a high percentage of their income on groceries. So when essentials like eggs, milk, rice, or meat rise by a few dollars, it's not just inflation, it's a real threat to their monthly budget. A family of four now spends 20 to 30% more to buy the exact same basket of goods they purchased just a few years ago. Nothing extra, nothing luxurious, just survival. And the pain doesn't stop with consumers. Farmers and small producers are being squeezed from both sides. Their input costs, fertilizer, animal feed, seeds, water, electricity, fuel have all climbed dramatically. Yet, when they try to sell their products, they face enormous pressure from big food companies and supermarket chains that force prices down through contracts and market dominance. Costs go up, margins shrink, and the people who actually grow the food often earn the least. Meanwhile, taxpayers carry another hidden burden. As food becomes unaffordable, governments must expand subsidies, food vouchers, school meal programs, and social support just to prevent widespread hunger. And where does that money come from? From us. Ironically, our tax dollars end up indirectly supporting the very corporations that keep retail prices high while reporting record profits. We pay more at the store. We pay more through taxes. And shareholders, not citizens, walk away with the gains. In the end, when food prices rise, the system protects those at the top, and the bill is handed to everyone else. So, after all that has been explored, we return to the big question: why are food prices so high? Yes, part of the answer is real COVID, climate catastrophe, war, energy shocks, but the rest is much more unpleasant: an over-centralized food system, greed inflation, and corporations reporting record profits while families struggle to afford basic necessities. When we connect the dots of science and climate, 8,000 years of human trade, modern economics, and finally the reality of our daily meals, we find a truth that is hard to ignore: food is not a luxury. It is a basic human right, and it should never become a playground where a few powerful companies pursue profits at the expense of everyone else. If you want me to analyze and explain something else like gasoline, electricity, house prices, plane tickets, and why they are expensive, please comment below. Why is it so expensive? If you find this video helpful, don't forget to like, subscribe, and leave a comment on what topic you would like me to cover in the next video. See you next time.